The exit polls have some really interesting information. And I, of course, got a sneak peek of them because I get to sit next to John Dickerson.
One of the many advantages of that.
That's right. That's right. So tell us what you're seeing.
Well, we're going to zip all the way to the other part of the country. We're going to look at Arizona and Nevada. But it's essentially the same story that Major and Anthony were telling, which is when we look at this election, the Democrats have to turn out their voters, and Donald Trump has to turn out his voters. Well, Latinos are key to the Democratic coalition. Let's look first in Arizona, how Kamala Harris is doing with Latino voters. Well, she's up by 14 points, so you might think, well, she's doing pretty well. But if you compare that to what Joe Biden did in 2020 in the state of Arizona, he won them by 24 points. Yeah. So Kamala Harris is underperforming what Biden did in 2020. Also, just a sideline, an interesting story of the night. If these exit polls are solid, there seems to be a much larger Latino vote in Arizona. The share is much larger than it was in 2020. That's something in the future to look at. But now let's look.
That's just the future of Arizona in general.
But it's a 7-point difference.
Yeah,
that seems a lot.
Historically have exceptionally low turnout. Yeah.
But the difference between 16 and 20 was only 4 points. So it seems, I mean, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying it's interesting to look at. Nevada, the share is the same between 20 and 24, 17%. And we see here that Kamala Harris has a 50 to 45 point lead. That's in Nevada, where the polls just closed. That's 5 points. Biden was up by 26 in Nevada.
Remember, we're seeing in the national numbers that Trump is winning Latino men. That's part of what's changing this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, and not doing as well, and she's not doing as well with Latinas.
Right. And I had spoken to one Democratic pollster before this evening, and he said very clearly, if Trump on the national numbers gets 40% of the Latino vote, Harris is screwed.
Yeah.
That is a very concerning number for them. And the reason this is such a big deal is because Latinos really, we've said this for so many years, but this year it is true. Latinos could very much end up being the decisive demographic in this election. They're the largest minority group in the country. They're an estimated 36 million Latinos eligible to vote in this election. And when you were talking about election that is in the margins, by 1 point or another, like the one that we are following tonight in a state like Arizona, in a state like Philadelphia, it is this specific demographic that could make or break it for either side.
Mm-hmm. Just to give you the national Latino vote, Harris is up by 5 points. Biden won it by 21 points. That's the national number.
So concerning to the Harris campaign.
The point that you hear from whether it's Marco Rubio or others, is to say, put the identity aside and look at the issue of the economy and border, and particularly the economy. I had Senator Cortez Masto of Nevada on the program on Sunday, and she was saying, look, Nevada is always going to be tight. You know, pointed to her own race, but she only won by about 8,000 votes in 2022. But when I pointed out to her those demographics Trump seems to be edging in on, those without college degrees, those who are first frustrated about the economy, that fits her state as a profile. Nevada has the second highest unemployment rate in the country.
Right.
And so this is a place, as we get later on into the evening, we're going to be parsing these things very, very closely.
One interesting just to remember is Nevada is the smallest electoral prize of the night, just six electoral votes. It is also the most diverse battleground state and also has more registered nonpartisan voters than Democrats or Republicans, but a state worth watching and certainly getting that new data.